Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Thinking Shakespeare by Barry Edelstein. Welcome. Today we're discussing Chapter 9. The last video was about Chapter 9 too, but I said Chapter 8. Sorry. Today we're talking about sweet and varied notes, specifically about the way that Shakespeare's characters organize their thoughts. So Barry has an exercise that he wants us to do, but before we get into that exercise, let's talk about why we want to understand how Shakespeare's characters organize their thoughts. Shakespeare's characters' thoughts can be long, they can be very short, they can be anything in between. The point is that they're varied, right? Shakespeare varied his characters' thoughts to keep his audience interested and engaged with the work, right? If every thought was 10 syllables long, it would be a very boring thing to watch. So Shakespeare likes to mix it up a little bit. And then when you've got these mix-ups, it has the added benefit of informing you a little bit more about your character. So the first thing that Barry wants us to do when we're practicing sussing out our character's thoughts is he wants us to take our block of verse dialogue, or verse text, I should say, a big monologue. Find yourself a big monologue to do this on. And then you put it into prose, right? You take out the line breaks and you just put it into prose. And then you break that prose down into individual sentences and you put line breaks in between them. And in this way, it's a very effective tool to outline Shakespeare's characters' thoughts. It is a useful tool to, if you're having an issue where you feel like everything's a bit one note, where you're having difficulty finding the variation within the text. This is a very useful exercise for you. Break it down into sentences. Now take those sentences and look at them. Some of them are short, some of them are long, some of them are very long. Pay specific attention to the ones that are very short and the ones that are very long. Those are informative about your character's emotional state. So something that's very long is usually about somebody that's hyper fixated on something, somebody that's re-articulating things over and over and over again because they can't find the right words, or it's so painful to them that the words coming out of their mouth aren't quite sufficient, right? That's very informative. And then as a side note, so very long sentences tend to speed up. Ooh, cool. We'll cover that a little bit more later. And these very short sentences, these monosyllables, tend to carry a big emotional punch in them. Very thoughtful, very raw, very real. And then you have these lines in between of varying lengths. Look for patterns, right? Do you have short line, short line, short line, long line, short line, short line, short line? Keep your eye open to that kind of stuff. And then ask yourself, why these words now? Okay. So now that we've broken it into sentences and prose, we're going to put it back into the verse structure. And we're going to take a look about how this thought, these sentence thoughts, fit into iambic thoughts, right? This discussion of thoughts. I'm using it in two different senses. Forgive me. So if you have one sentence that spans two verse lines, you might have another one that just spans one, and another one that just spans one, and another one that spans two. Now, within these verse lines, take a look at the thoughts being presented, right? So if we have a two verse line sentence, how many thoughts are in there? How many pieces of imagery are in there? And in this way, what we're doing is we're crafting the variation within the thoughts, right? That's what the whole point of this is we want to take these super thoughts and we want to flesh them out and we want to fill them up. This is an exercise used for that. Okay? So I think that's enough on this exercise. Thank you so much. As a recap, in order to flush out a block of text that you're having trouble finding the variation in, break it down into prose, break those proses into sentences to get an idea of what your character's argument is. You can also use the paraphrasing technique at this time. Put it back into the verse line to take a look at how the iambic thoughts line up with the sentence thought, and then take a look within those iambic thoughts to see how the the thought unfolds. Is it imagery? Is it illusions? What kind of imagery and illusions? What traits of speech? Is there alliteration? How does alliteration assist in this moment? Is there abutted consonants? How does that impact it? Right? This is the high level Shakespearean analysis that you use all the tools that we've discussed in previous videos to form conclusions about the structure of Shakespeare's characters' thoughts. These videos are getting so hard to make because there's so much to go into once you start getting into the super level thoughts. If you're having a hard time following, go back, review some of the earlier videos. I assure you, you're gonna get that little key that makes everything click into place and brings your Shakespeare to a whole new level. I love you all. Have a great day, and don't forget, go Shakespeare!